everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Myra. In today's video, we are of course going into the new Anastasia Beverly Hills Pro Pigment Palette Volume 5. So obviously this video is going to be a 3 looks 1 palette video. So I hope you guys are interested in that. If you are, please stay here with us. Also, I'm going to be inserting some swatches on this palette. So if you are excited to see what looks I came out with, just keep on watching. These are all of the 25 shades swatched, and obviously this is a pigment palette, so there are only 7 shadows that are able to be applied on the eyes or safe for the eye area, and those are going to be marked, and they are A1, A2, B1, B5, D1, D3, E4. I'm going to start with the shade B3 in a Sigma E40 brush, and I'm going to place that on the crease and just blend it all over the crease in windshield wiper motions. I'm gonna go back and grab some more of the B3 shade and just continue blending that shade all over the crease. Now I'm going to grab a Luxie 235 brush. It's clean, and I am going to use it on the edge of that shade just to blend it out a little bit more, and it could look a little bit more seamless. Now I'm going to use a Morphe brush R33 in the shade D5, and I'm going to place that on the outer corner of the lid and just start packing the shadow all over that outer corner, just building it up little by little. Remember, these are pigments, so they are gonna pack a punch on initial application, so it's easier if you start slowly building it up than to go heavy-handed on the initial application. Now I'm going to grab a clean Juvia's Place brush, the JP006, and I'm going to start buffing that outer shade into the crease, approximately 2/3 of the eye. Now I'm going in with the Luxie 235 clean brush that we had right now, and I'm going to again blend those 2 shades. Now I'm going to grab the shade A3 with my finger, and I'm going to place that all over the inner part of the lid. And I'm going to start in the center and slowly drag it into the inner part of the eye. Now I'm losing some pigmentation, so I'm going back and grab more of that A3 shade. Now I'm going to blend those 2 textures together with ABH Cosmetics brush. This one was from the It's My Ray Ray collection, and I don't think these are available anymore. Now I grabbed the shade E3 with my finger, and I'm going to apply that in between the shade we just applied and the one I had on the outer corner. And then I'm going to switch fingers and blend it together. Just slightly tapping motions. because we don't want to lose the shimmer from that beautiful shade. Now I'm going to grab the shade E5 in a Sigma L05 brush, and I am going to place it on the top of my lash line. Now I am noticing that there is some kickback on the pants, but that is to be expected with these pigments. Now I did have some fallout without E5 shade here on my cheek, but I'm going to dust that away at the end. Meanwhile, I'm going to place that same shade right here on the lower lash line, and I'm just going to tap it with that same Sigma L05 brush. Now I just dipped my brush once into that shade, and it is highly pigmented, as you can see here. I grabbed a ABH Cosmetics brush, the number 10, and as you can see, this is a tapered brush. So I am going to use the shade D5 and run that on the lash line, on the lower lash line, in the middle part of the eye. Now with that same brush, I'm going to use the shade B3, and I'm going to apply it on the inner part of our lower lash line, well, my lower lash line. Now I'm going to grab the brush from Sigma, the E36 in the shade A4, and I'm going to run that all across the lower lash line just to connect all of those shades that we had together earlier. Now I'm going to use the brush from Morphe, the M421, and I'm going to use the shade E1 on the inner corner. And then next I'm going to lightly apply the shade B1 on top of that E1 shade. Then I'm going to also apply the B1 shade on the brow bone. Now this is look number 1. I'm going to use a ABH Cosmetics brush, the V5 in the shade A4. Now I'm going to place that all over the crease in windshield wiper motions. I'm going back to grab some more of that A4 shade. Now I'm using the Dominique Cosmetics DSO2 brush, and I'm going to pick up the shade B4 and slowly start placing it in the center part of the crease. Then I'm going to just start blending it a little bit into the crease shape in little circles. As you can see, almost into the inner part of the eye. Now I'm going to change brush and use the Luxie 229 to blend those two shades together. Now I am having a little bit of trouble blending these two shades together, so I am going to go back into the palette and grab the shade A4 again. And very carefully I'm going to place that in between the shades where we could obviously see the difference in the color. Now I'm grabbing the Dominique Cosmetics brush again, the DSO2 in the shade C5, and I'm going to pack that on the outer corner of the eye. And also on the inner corner of the eye. I'm using the Sigma E34 in the shade B4 just to blend that outer C5 shade that we just applied and blend it into the previous B4 shade that we have on the outer part of the eye. Now I'm going to grab the shade B5 with my finger, which is super creamy, and I'm going to place that on the center part of the eye where we didn't place any shade at all. Now I'm grabbing the Dominique Cosmetics SO2 brush again. I cleaned it with my towel, and now I'm going to just blend those two textures together in the center of the eye. Now I could stop here, but I'm going a little bit extra, and I'm going to use the shade D3 on my finger, and I'm going to lightly tap it on the center part of the eye just to give it a little more extra sparkle. And I'm sorry, that was a shade D2. Now this is a pressed glitter, so I'm just going to do it again, just very lightly. Now the lower lash line is going to be very simple because we have so much going on at the top, and I'm just going to apply the shade C5 with that same Dominique Cosmetics brush all across the lower lash line. And just connecting it into the top eye. Next I'm going into the shade D1, and I'm going to apply that with my finger on the inner lower lash line. And I'm going to grab the brush from Sigma E34 to blend those two textures together. Now this was just a fun pop of color. Next I'm going to use the Colourpop brush E20 in the shade C2. Is going to go in the inner part of the eye. And I'm dragging it a little bit the top part of the eye. As you can see, this shadow packs a punch. It's super blinding. And then also connect it to that lower lash line as well. I'm using the Morphe M423 flat brush just because I wanted to clean that inner part where we just applied the C2 shade, just to make it look a little bit more clean. And here's that final look. Now the shade D2 and the shade C5 did give me some fallout, so just keep that in mind when using these two shades. I'm starting with the Morphe E23 in the shade B2, and I am applying this all over the crease in windshield wiper motions. Very slowly, just diffusing that shade all the way across on the crease. I don't think I've mentioned this, but I'm using the Covergirl Lid Lockup Primer as the eyeshadow primer. Now I'm using the BH Cosmetics V6 Fluffy Shader brush, and I'm applying the shade D4 on the outer corner of the eye, just packing it very lightly and slowly. Now I'm taking a clean Morphe E17 just to blend those two shades. On a Luxie 141 brush, I am grabbing more of the B2 just to help blend the shade D4 and the B2 together. And you want to grab just a little bit and go in slowly on top of the D4 shade, just so that we can lose that harsh line that was there before. Now I'm going back with the Morphe brush, the E17, and I'm going to blend that again, just very slowly and gently. And if we lose some of that D4 shade, we can go back with the initial brush and pack on some more. But I want to focus on blending this shade first. Now again, these shades, the matte shades are very, they do have a lot of kickback on the pans. So just keep that in mind if you don't like that with your shadows. They do have a lot of kickback, but the pigmentation is obviously there. Now I'm going with the Wet n Wild brush in the shade E2, just tapping it lightly on the eyeshadow palette, and I'm going to go into the middle part of the crease, slightly kissing the inner part of the eye. Next, I'm going in with my favorite shade from the palette, that is the shade C1. I grabbed that with my finger and I'm going to place that on the 2/3 of my eye. I grabbed this shade D3, that beautiful duochrome, and I'm going to place that in between those two shades, the C1 and the D4, just so that they could blend it a little bit better and they could mesh well. Now using the Morphe R42, I'm going back with the D4 shade and placed it a little bit on that outer corner again, just so that I won't lose that pigmentation from that shade, because that's a really pretty shade that I want to keep on the outer corner. Now using the Sigma Aloe 4 detail brush, I'm going to mesh these two textures here together. And diffuse it a little bit more. On the lower lash line, using the Morphe R42, we're placing the shade D4 on the outer corner of the lower lash line, just the outer part. Then the shade E2 on the rest of the lower lash line, almost to the inner part of the eye. Blending those two shades together as well. Now using this Sigma E36 in the shade B2, I am going to run this on the lower lash line below those two shades. That way the shades can look a little bit more meshed together and these shades can match the ones on the top. In a JH42, I grabbed the shade C1, I sprayed it a little bit, and I'm going to tap it here on the lower inner part of the eye, just so that the glitter will not give me fallout and it could be easier to press it on the lower lash line. Now this next part, you could just go straight into the shade C2, but as I was trying or experimenting with these shades for the highlight, the inner highlight, I started with the shade E1, and then I went into the shade B1 and then the shade C2. But again, you could just skip the first two shades and go straight into C2, but since I already applied it in that order, I have to do the same on the other side. And then I'm placing the shade C2 on the brow bone. Now I'm going to apply the rest of my complexion products, my lip products, and my mascara, and I'll be back. In case you were wondering, I'm using the Milk Makeup Bronzer, and then I'm using the new Dominique Cosmetics Cream Blush in the shade Soft Pink. And as a highlight, I'm using the Essence Pure Nude in the shade Be My Highlight. So I obviously can keep going on doing so many more makeup looks, but I have to stop because this video is already too long. I obviously love this palette. This is probably on my top 3. The shades in here are really gorgeous. I really think that they did absolutely stunning with this palette. These are very wearable shades. It's very not muted, but they're very wearable for the morning, for a night look. You can very easily create a good look for the day. The neutral tones here are absolutely gorgeous. They pair well with all of these lilac colors, and I honestly think that you don't need this palette, but I do recommend it a lot for you guys. Of course, I have not played with all of the shades, but I have swatched them already on my arms, of course, and they all feel extremely buttery. So far I have not had any shade that has been patchy at all. Some of them do have fallout, like the mattes, of course, and they do have kickback on the pans, but as far as blendability, how uniform the shades go well together, they mesh well together, they did absolutely stunning with this palette, and I highly recommend it for you guys. I am so glad that I picked this up. I was really second guessing if this was going to be a good purchase, but I am so happy that I went ahead with this purchase. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed the looks that I did today. Please let me know which one was your favorite, number 1, 2, or 3. For me, I think this one was my most favorite one that I came up with, but I hope you guys let me know down below in the description box, I'm sorry, in the comment section below. And I hope you all guys have a great day. Please stay safe, and don't forget to like, subscribe to this video. If you have not subscribed, please do so. That will help my channel out a lot, and I'm trying to reach my goal of 100 subscribers, so please go ahead and click that subscribe button, and I hope to see you all on my next video. Take care, everyone. Bye.